Sorry for the long break, all. I have been doing a lot of other work recently, so I had to pause a little bit with Fulgrim. But now we're back, and I am going to continue painting out these metals. As you see here, I have already tested a little bit of the metals, see what kind of results I can get. But as you can see, there's a lot of trims here. So it's going to be a fairly long ride with the gold. So I won't show everything on cam, of course, because that would be repetitive and quite boring. But I will show some more important elements for you to understand how things are going down. So let's get started. So first off, I found a really cool sort of base color for this. And that is to mix the decayed metal and copper color. I really liked the tone these two gave. These two formed when I mixed them. So yeah, real cool. So you'll see here in a moment. Get a very dark goldish color. That is excellent for the type of gold I want to create here. So the very orange type of metals, very nice to use for different base coats for other metals. Quite good in trying to contrast some gold and yellow metals as well, which we are going to use here, of course. So I'm gonna throw down a base coat with this over almost the entire miniature here. So with all the details painted out in the base color, we shall now proceed to shade the armor down. So I was experimenting the other day. I have been painting a lot of the Necromunda guys. Got a pretty cool commission of these. I'm also going to do a tutorial of these guys. They're character ones, of course. It's funnier to paint characters than regular troopers most of the time. So I'm gonna make some tutorials of that. But I found out a little funny thing. For those of you who can't get the Fantasy Games Despair Green, I've actually found, believe it or not, the equivalent in Games Workshop. The Pterodon Turquoise contrast paint. It doesn't look like the Despair Green when you look at it firsthand, but it sort of acts as it when you paint it onto metals. I can't assure that it will on cloth or other kinds of details, but this is close enough for being a lookalike to the Despair Green. So if you're short on fantasy game paints where you live, this is a great option to the Despair Green. And it's pre-glazed right off the bottle, so it's very easy to just start painting with it straight away. You don't need to add, well, you can add additional glazes to it, but you don't have to. It is slightly different, but it works the same way, and gives a pretty nice and cool shade to it all. So today I will show how this part here is going to be painted. So of course we are going to shade out all the recessed areas to define all the feathers from each other. Not until after we have done that we can start doing some further out shading to determine where light and shadow will be to create some good contrast in the metal reflections, metallic reflections. As you can see here, the Pteranodon turquoise is very green onto this yellowish bronze paint here. Can be quite hard to see when the reflection is too much in the camera. Oh, there we go. So yeah, I'm very pleased with this result. I can say that I was a little bit skeptical of the contrast paints when they first arrived. I figured they would probably be good glazes, and that's what I've been using them for. But I think they probably for some people are a great tool of painting miniatures fast, I guess. But I don't paint miniatures just for play. I paint them for display as well. So I want to put a little bit more effort into it. So if I can indoctrinate the contrast paint into a more useful purpose than just to be washed over a miniature, I will gladly do it. Because I think all the paints have a purpose. And see this trim here with the eagle, sorry, got a little paint on it there, but I'm going to repaint this, going to be a different color that I have practiced already. Got it here. Not very visible at the moment. It's on his leg, but it's going to be a bit more metallic than bronze and gold. So now we can see that we got a reflection going on here, so it's going to be a very reflective surface going like straight down here, or more like here. So we will shade out the feathers, something like this. And now could actually be a good moment to add a little bit of glaze to this, to create those very sudden transitions for bronze metal here. I assume going to be gold, but it looks kind of bronze right now. So a shimmer of light would probably go through here. Can add a little bit more the recessed areas here, just to give us that contrast of paint. So this would be good amount to these feathers. So next paint is the Elven Gold paint. A very yellow paint, good contrast to our orange and green shades. So wanted to be very strong looking onto the miniature itself. So this one I'm going to shade down or glaze down a little bit, just to get more control over the flow and the opacity of the paint. So let's start at the obvious place. We're going to create a midpoint for where all the paint meet in the center here, give a good reflection. You can see that the paint already affects the surface, because it's such a good contrast to it, and this is fairly thin paint, so quick results, very good. And you can just base it down or lay down a thin layer so you know where you're heading, and then we will intensify them with some more layers later. And on the edges we also want some Elven Gold. This time not too much glazed down. Sorry for mumbling a little bit there. We want them on the edges just to show off the details a bit more. Sort of gives the viewer of the miniature a more decent realization of where all the details are and how they are formed. And also we got some damages going on here as well. Might as well point them out. I really like the resin characters from Forge World. They are so detailed. They are a massive project, of course, if you want to really take care of all that detail. So good planning and careful brush strokes is good when painting these guys. They are very what should I say? They can be frustrating to paint sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. I think Guilliman is probably a fairly easy miniature. If you compare it to the other ones. Yeah, still a bit difficult as well. So you can see now how we are getting a good reflection here. Especially this is somewhat what it should look like in real life. The shade here. So we'll continue. This one is the most obvious highlight process, where we take the ends of the feathers. If you're new at detecting light points and where to push the paint to create light surfaces, this thing here can be quite weird at the start. Why would I put paint here when this is the end of the material? So I have to kind of break that thought and just observe the light and not just focus on where is the highest raised surfaces on the miniature. Because you see, that was what Games Workshop taught me when I was a kid and read White Dwarfs. Always apply the brightest paint at the highest tops on the details and the surfaces. That was not entirely correct. But this was good tips for people who were new to the painting aspects of the hobby, of course. Alright. So I think that's a decent amount of Elven Gold. You can of course add a little bit more to intensify the surfaces just a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and do that just for educational purposes. You can see I'm slightly touching the details with paint now, because I want more control over it. So compare this to our other base coated areas. This one has gotten more intense and more metallic in its golden reflections. Well, lastly, I'm going to do a highlight with the Aquima Citrina, also Citrine Alchemy, and this is, as I've said many times, a very good paint for metallics. Creates such great highlights on most metals, so it's not a shock that I use it quite a lot. So it of course works with this as well. So we're going to make a small glaze of this as well. Not too much, just a little bit to make it a little bit more transparent. Alright, so let's see here. So we're going to add a little bit more glaze. You can see that it's quite thin now. Just a hint of it. So we're going to intensify the reflection points a little bit more. And just rubbing the brush back and forth to give it a little bit of a cover of the Citrine Alchemy. So now we can start making the edge highlights. You can see already how it just said boom in the reflections. But now I want those edge highlights as well, because all the edges on the metals give off some sort of light. Sometimes you get hair on the brush. It's to be removed. And this is why I like the Citrine Alchemy. Such a good contrast to many of the golden paints. It's got a perfect beige tone to it. Alright, so here's our gold painted out. It's very reflective at the moment, just because we are straight under our desk lamp. See if we can get a different angle to it, to sort of get rid of the light a little bit. Can't really do that. But yeah, so you can see we got some decent looking gold here. So now I've created a little mixture here. We are going to use as a glaze. glaze. Just to bring back some more of that original color here. So just between the light and the shadow, you create a bridge of this. A bridge. A hard time saying bridge today. That's okay. Maybe it's not. So as you can see, we got a little bit more color in there. Just sort of helps the overall feeling of the gold material we're trying to achieve here. There we go. So that's the gold details for you. Because I think it's a pretty good material to learn like this. It's a very good gold you can use for many of your projects. So don't hesitate to try it out, and practice makes perfect, of course. So also the level of glazes is, I know that's frustrating to get the right amount of glaze. So add just a little bit of it each time, and just add more if you think it's if you still think the paint is too thick and leave too much trace onto the miniature. So just be careful and do it in small steps. So yeah, thank you for watching this part of the tutorials on Fulgrim, and we move on to the next ones.